Hello, everybody. Wow, I felt like I was like, hello. I felt like Frank from National Tiles. Hello, it's Frank from National Tiles. All right, I'm obviously not Frank from National Tiles, and I'm very excited to talk to you. Oh my goodness gracious. Very excited to talk to you on this very fabulous Wednesday hump day. Welcome to our downward slope for the week. It's awesome, isn't it? Just so awesome. I hope your week has been going really well and you've been getting all of the good things done. Now, let me just, while you're coming in, let's see if I can get that a little bit better. Hey, Claire, nice to see you. Thanks for sharing this with Catherine. All right, oh my God, that completely backfired. That didn't work at all. All right, so what I wanted to talk... Oh my Lord, excuse me. Hi, Natalie, how are you? What I wanted to talk to you about today is a conversation that I just had this morning, and it's a really important conversation actually. And the story, it's all about the stories that we tell ourselves. Now, a la Brené Brown. Now, if you have not had the opportunity to read, watch, listen, absorb the Brene Brown goodness and amazingness, please, for the love of all things holy, add it onto the list of things that you need to jump in on. What I really love, hey Chris, what I really love about Brene's stuff is that not only does she call us to hey Catherine, how are you? Not only call us to a higher standard, I suppose, she also gives us a really awesome and powerful, empowering, useful framework to be able to communicate. So a bit of a backstory, because her work was really a huge part of transformation in my business, in my marriage, with my children, with my writing, with my coaching, pretty much everything actually, if I'm honest, going back and around the year 2015 from memory. I think maybe 2015, maybe 2016. And the thing that I really love about it was that it gave us a framework for communication. So having a conversation this morning, and we were talking about how, I was talking with this lady and she was saying about how her partner will kind of like do different things or not listen or go off in a half, and I'm like, the judgy me, this is a family member, like the judgy me was like, yeah, well, that's really immature. But I said, you know what, actually, you know, it's hard to have conversations about how we feel. Now, I've been the person who for many years will jokingly say feelings, I don't talk about feelings, I don't do feelings, screw that. And my marriage nearly was over. Well, like in my view of the world, I was done. I remember trying to talk to my husband, like back then, trying to talk to my husband and having just feeling like we've both got very strong personalities, feeling like, you know, we just kept butting heads and being at loggerheads around different things. And in my view of the world, I was like, well, I've gone and done all of this personal development. You know, you should be on the money. Like, you should be coming up. You should be keeping up with me. You should be learning all of these things. And he was just like, what the fuck has happened to my wife? And like, this isn't kind of what I signed up for. So it was a bit of it was an interesting sort of scenario, I guess. It was really shit, actually. But interesting, you know, looking back. And I guess that part of the thing that I had to start to learn was around, you know, how feminine, masculine energies work in a relationship. It doesn't matter whether it's a same-sex relationship or the opposite genders relationship. We've got to learn how to communicate, and we've got to understand masculine and feminine energy. And so what I hated doing, you know, I'm all for being vulnerable with you guys, right? Because I believe it's really important, and I believe it's really necessary actually to talk about the real stuff, that goes on with growing and building a business, and how I feel about different things in terms of growing business and how I felt at different times. And that sort of, I find that confronting at different times, because I would love to be that person who's perceived as being, oh, she's always got her shit together, she's on fire, she just does all of the things. Whereas, that's not necessarily the reality. I'm human apparently, and I don't always feel like I have my shit together. And I made the commitment and the decision to myself and to my audience, being you and my clients, to be as real and raw as I possibly can, because I think that there is too much glitter covered bullshit floating out there, made up to be, that thing's amazing and awesome all the time, and that, all you need to do is have a 6-figure launch and, your life has changed, or, make $1 million and, all of a sudden you don't have another worry on the world, or, you hit the 100 grand, you hit $10,000 a month, and, you float around like without a care in the world forever and ever and ever and amen. And it's not true. I've been in the game for 11 years and more, actually. It's just not true. So that was a commitment I made to you guys. And I find it uncomfortable, but I'm okay doing it, right? I guess it's on my terms and it's not my marriage. So what I remember, like, we were always fighting. And it was the kinds of things where I'm like, I'm feeling really ignored. When you do this, I feel like this. You make me feel blah, blah, blah. And there was a whole lot of, I was probably the shittiest person to be married to, because I was like, I try and talk, but instead of trying to have a conversation, it was a completely different thing. So when I came across Brene Brown and started reading some of her frameworks for conversations and communications, and I learned in one of her books, and I'm pretty sure that she talks about it in different things that she's put out as well, in terms of like podcasts and audio things and videos, TED Talks, that type of stuff. One of the things that was really powerful for me, that really made me go, oh fuck, was the example of when, she talks about the stories that we're telling ourselves, and she gives the example of when her and Steve were on holidays at the lake, and they're both swimming across, and she's all up in her head about different things. I hadn't been swimming in the lake for quite some time, and she was in a Speedo and blah, 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 and then he was ignoring her, and she conjured up this whole story in her head about what that meant. And she explained in her book, and I think it might have been Rising Strong actually, explained in the book, either that or The Power of Vulnerability, I can't remember, about the framework that she pretty much went through in order to have really vulnerable conversations. And so as I was talking to this woman this morning, it's like, maybe this is something you could try, where you're saying, this is a story that I'm making up in my head about this. And you're not making me have this story. It's just what I'm going through. It's, what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, what I'm noticing. And, I don't want this to be the case. So, what about you? What do you think? What are you feeling? What stories are you telling yourself? And then you're able to have this conversation from a place that's de-escalated, but is very, very vulnerable. And I've got to tell you, like, some of the most powerful conversations that I've had with my husband, and actually I've had these types of conversations with my parents as well. I hired my parents to work with me in this business going back, quite a number of years ago. And we, in terms of like how we communicated, we would use this framework to rumble and to get through whatever it was that was coming up. So for me, it's like, if I'm getting in my head about stuff, and this is in like even today type things with my husband, I'll say, well, this is a story that I'm telling in my head, and I know that it's not rational, and I know that it's not necessarily what's going on for you, but this is how I'm feeling, and this is what I'm noticing, and how do we move forward from here? What's really curious, I guess, going, all right, well, that worked in there. How can I use this in my parenting? And it's really curious because I use this same type of framework or similar type of framework basically when I'm having conversations with the kids. It's like, my little person, my son is 12 years old, my daughter's 14, my second daughter's 14, hey Christy, and my oldest daughter's 19. And I'm like, you know what, there's different times where it's been really important to have big conversations about various different things, and I've had to sit down and say, you know what, this is going to be really hard to talk about. It's going to be really hard for me to talk about, but do you think we can give it a go? The stories that I've made up in my head have been about how you're just going to storm out, that you're not going to listen, or that, this could be the worst case scenario, and, I'm doing my best here to try and protect you. And so then having those conversations with them, being able to help my clients have these conversations with the important people in their worlds has been one of the most amazing things, I think, and one of the really cool things to hear the results of what's happened for them in their lives with what it is that they do. So I guess what I wanted to talk about today is when you think about your business, and we can make it really very, logical, I guess. I'm going to talk about marketing. So when we think about marketing, when you think about going and doing a video, when you think about going and putting yourself out there, what is the story that you're telling yourself? And about what's going to happen, about what could happen, about why it won't work, about what will work. And the thing that we've got to get really good at, and this is a conversation that I've had actually with my kids, it's like, it all sort of boils down to, what's everyone going to be thinking about me? This is like in different scenarios. It's been, well, what if this doesn't work? And then what's everyone going to say? I'm going to be the laughing stock of the planet. Somebody might find the clip and then go and put it on freaking, the internet, and then it can go viral, and then, oh my God, no one's ever going to buy it. What are the stories? What is if you follow that trail and if you pull that thread and if you tease it out, what is it that you're actually really, what is that story that you're telling yourself really mean? Because if you can unravel that, then go, well, actually, nobody died from doing a video. Nobody died from doing a Facebook Live. Nobody's died from putting themselves out there and marketing themselves and telling people that, hey, you know what, if you need a coach, I've got this program coming up, we can certainly do some stuff. Or, hey, you know what, I'm a psychologist, and if you're feeling angry, there's stuff that we can do to help you with that. Or, you might have some unresolved trauma that you need some help with. We can help you with this. It might be, hey, you know what, you need some help putting your website together. That's the stuff that we can do. Nobody died from putting that stuff out there. You might not get a response, but that's where you go, all right, well, what's the story that you're telling yourself as a consequence of that? And then if you allow yourself to really be vulnerable with yourself, because we are so freaking good at going, whatever, just move on, don't want to talk about it, don't want to think about it. I'm such a failure, or whatever the case might be, then you actually end up using vulnerability as your power. And it doesn't even mean that you have to have the conversations with other people, right? I would encourage you to have these conversations with people if it's appropriate and if you're experiencing it in your world. But in terms of you being able to empower yourself to get past the shit, and it will keep coming up, right? There'll be different layers that come up. There'll be the, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not professional enough? Blah, blah. But then what does that actually mean? Well, you know what? The story that I'm telling myself about that is that everybody's going to be looking and pointing. That it's kind of like what Brene Brown again talks about is like, I imagine the worst case scenario for me, the story that the image that I have is like, I'm going to go and do all of this stuff and I talk about all these things that I want to do, and I'm standing in the middle of the fucking arena, and then I'm naked, and then everybody's pointing and laughing, and it didn't work, ha 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 ha, look how silly she looks, or whatever else they happen to say that's derogatory, and then we've got the ability to go, well, actually, Is that really true? Is that really the likely outcome? And what would a better story be to tell ourselves? So what would a better story be to tell ourselves? The thing that we know about quantum physics, and the thing that we know about quantum physics is this: our thoughts create feelings, and our feelings help us to then take action, right? So if we can if we can have a better self-talk, if we can change the story that we're telling ourselves, if we can change that record that's going over and over and over and over again in our head to something that's more empowering, then you're more likely to start to see that to become your reality. Right? If you're constantly thinking, oh my God, I'm going to fail. Oh my God, I'm going to fail. If you get up to a 100-meter line in a 100-meter race and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall over and break my ankle. Oh my God, I'm going to fall over and break my ankle. I might false start. You're more likely to false start and fall over and break your ankle than you are to win. So visualizing and telling yourself stories about the ultimate outcome, the best possible outcome, is going to influence everything for you. So what is a more empowering story that you can tell yourself? And it could be that, baby, I've got this. It could be that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens. I always make the best and the right decisions, and I always make progress. I always take aligned action. The better story is, I'll always learn something. As you guys will know, as you've seen, I've got the immersive experience being promoted out there at the moment. And, I've got to really kind of just go, I don't have as many people registered as I would like. Right? I'm like, everybody should know how to learn. Everybody should be learning how to do this. Everybody should be in this program. I don't understand. I'm like, I don't understand why people aren't in there. Some people are, but it's not the volume in which I anticipated, actually. And so I could tell myself one story, which could be that I'm shit, that I can't do this, that nobody likes me, that nobody loves me, that nobody thinks my stuff is valuable, that nobody thinks my stuff is helpful, that I'm a washed up has-been, and there are so many more people out there, blah, 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 blah. There's 1,000,000,001 things that I could be telling myself that would be completely disempowering. Or I look at it the other way and go, well, what would be a better story to tell myself? And that's that the exact right people who need to be here are here. That I know that everything that I do creates a ripple, and whether it's this or something better, that's okay. Now, it's not about letting yourself off the hook, but it's about being a bit freaking kind to yourself, right? So that you can create what it is that you want to create, and that you can do what it is that you're going to do, and that you can find a way to get back up on that horse. So vulnerability is actually you giving yourself a whole ton of unstoppable power, a ton of unstoppable momentum in every area of your life. And the four main things that I talked about was how this really helped my marriage, my coaching, my writing, and the rest of my world. The way that it helps my writing is that I just talk about stuff that either in the writing, like the 2,000 word blog I put up yesterday, I just talk about the stuff that I'm either going through, that I'm thinking about, or the conversations that I've been having, or maybe where I was back then. And, sometimes it's hard to let yourself kind of like bare your soul, right? Sometimes it can feel like you're being really exposed. But here's the thing that I know. If I'm thinking or feeling something, or if I've been worried about something, or if I've got this goal, I know I'm not the only one. And, I might be here and you might be here in terms of where you're at in your business, in your finances, in your life, in your health, in your motivation, or whatever. Or it might be the other way around. It doesn't matter. The point is that if I'm thinking, experiencing it, or if I've got clients who are thinking and experiencing this type of stuff, we know that we're not really that unique in terms of the fact that we are human, and we all have a really excellent little gremlin that lives inside our brain that tells us, well, maybe the sky really is falling in, right? The sky is falling down, the sky is falling down. So have a think about the stories that you're telling yourself today and what would be a better, more empowering way to reframe those. But first of all, you've got to rumble, right? As Brene Brown says, like, you've got to rumble with the shit. You've got to do that shitty first draft. You've got to work out and tell yourself, or if you're in a conversation with someone, what is the story that you're telling yourself about X, Y, Z, and what does that mean to you? And then look at a way to really rewire and reframe that story to something that is more empowering for yourself, because that will have a flow in every area of your world. I'm very happy to say that my husband and I are very happily married most of the time. And not every day, because, that's not the reality. Or maybe every day we are happy, but then there's elements in the days where I'm very not happy with him. But that's part of living with other people and dealing with other personalities, right? Who have different agendas to ourselves. But I am committed to having the tough conversations and the hard conversations, because that's really where that power kicks in. And it's the same with my kids. So that is that, my friends, for you today. Now, if you do want some help standing out from the crowd, getting yourself out there, being seen as the rock star of your industry, then you will see Visible, the Immersive Experience is open for your registration pleasure. The link is in the comments or in the show notes if you are listening to the replay. Have an awesome day, everybody, and I will speak to you, if not before, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Get out there, go help some people, have a whole ton of fun doing it, and most of all, remember that the world is ready for your brand of awesome. All right, you're awesome.